hello, party people. I'm so excited to have my friend Anastasia. Okay, yeah, so I'm crazy. Okay, so we had you on a while ago, last year sometime.
Yeah.
Anastasia Casey is, I don't know, she has like the golden touch when it comes to websites and marketing and hashtags and Pinterest, and I just can keep going on and on and on. So I want to share something. You're not allowed to cry or get mad at me.
Oh gosh.
So let me just tell you, she is the real deal. When she revamped my website because it was a hot mess, right? And when I looked at it, like I just broke down in tears, and I had it was a 750% increase in people going to my website. So it was insane. And I have to say that you meet people who say, oh, I'm a website developer, I can do this, I can do that. But when you go to her website and see the work that she has done for people, and I know you should all be following her on Instagram, it will take your breath away. So I want to say all of that to say, this morning I got up and I was meditating, and somehow I got onto Instagram and there was this amazing poem. Don't get mad at me. And I'm going to tell you who wrote this afterwards, but here's a poem that describes her. She doesn't prove points. She changes perception. A mind at work like hers is made by no accident. Crafted by God himself, ambiguous like art, God gave us her to treasure. Thank you. Her husband wrote that.
No, that's not my husband. It's my work husband, my good friend. He's my work husband. We have just become like the best work friends, confidants, cheerleaders.
And it's true.
I think in so many ways makes it feel even more special because he is like a colleague. He's a friend. And it was just such a beautiful poem he wrote me.
Yeah. So Bryce Eldred wrote that. But anyway, moving right along. I just had to share that because that is the epitome of who you are. And so I'm super grateful that that was penned. Let's get down to website, sister. Hey, whoever's in there, start putting in your questions. We're going to chat first, and then we're going to go to the Q&A. And let me see if I can pull that up because I'm always not so great. Okay, here we go. Why is your website so important? A lot of people, like, they just throw something up in the beginning, but then they never go back to it, or they think they can do it. Just because you're an interior designer doesn't mean you're a website developer, or like you can really, like we saw the hot mess that was going on with me. So
I think that websites are so important right now because after the year and a half that everybody has had, and there's been so much less face time, your website is really what is defining your physical spaces you design in a digital environment. And when you skip over that, or when you don't take that seriously, or really invest in it, or really think through what it is you're trying to communicate, I think that you need to acknowledge that you are doing yourself a true disservice, and you are not showcasing the feelings and emotions that your spaces evoke because you kind of cut a corner in your digital space.
True. What are some of the things that you see that are not wrong, that are wrong with people's websites? Like, what do they miss with the opening page? Or here's something that bothers me. When you go to someone's website, it's the other place that we don't like, the space people, you know what I'm saying? Or not round, but anyway. So when you go to their website, and I feel like people's pictures are put up, it just takes the whole expanse of the computer, and you can't really see it, so it looks distorted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think you need to be very conscientious about when you're working with your photographers and your web design team about how you're actually going to frame those images so that the person who's receiving the information, who's visiting your website, can truly experience it as you and your photographer imagined it. And so a lot of times that means there needs to be some negative space. I think it's super trendy for people to say, I want a full bleed image on every part of my website, but you end up cropping off a lot of your rooms because those full bleed images get distorted as you go between, a full screen desktop to a iPad to a laptop to a mobile phone. So it's really about thinking, how does this actually interact with my site visitors when you're across different devices?
Okay, that's cool. What are 3 things that are super important that people should think about? Because I know people like my brand, or I'm a brand, or this brand, or they copy brands.
Right. I think if we're thinking just like a super jotted down checklist mindset, the first thing is check your website, go down to your footer and make sure your copyright is up to date. That's like the telltale sign for me to acknowledge that, like, hey, this person hasn't even updated their website in 3 years. You know, it still says 2018. So that's like a super quick way to just say, hey, I am fresh, I'm legally protected, and
Right.
this is something that like I care about and is being constantly updated. It makes you look like you are relevant in a very simple way. That's the way my brain works. The second thing is you want to make sure that all of your website images, portfolio images, headshots, all of them need to have an alt tag. And that's something you do on the back end of your website where you just put in a description of what you're looking at. This is so important because I cannot tell you how many super high-end websites I've been, like my favorite designers, and I go to like pin an image from them and it comes up and it automatically populates a caption that just says 001 underscore nothing. It just says image with like a number, and it doesn't even give you any credit to your design. And then it's out there on the internet with no tie back to your actual website, your name, your work. You need to make sure that you are putting in that extra effort to add those details in. So when anybody visits your site and wants to pin your work as inspiration, that you're giving yourself the credit that you deserve.
Oh my God, that makes sense, because I've seen people like, they'll put up a post and I know whose work it is. And then here's the other thing that's shady. They put like their information, but they don't tag who it is. So then I DM them and I'm like, just so you know, 1, it's so-and-so's work. And 2, you need to give them credit, and you're making it look like it's yours. And then they go back in and they're like, oh, I just love her. I'm like, once again.
Right. So love her well. So yeah, that's one thing. It makes it way easier for people who come across your image on Pinterest later to really realize who it's from. But also, it just is so much more polished, especially if you have someone who's a potential client going through, they're starting to shop around designers, they're starting to look at people's portfolios, and they're, you know, saving an idea board on Pinterest. You want to make sure that when they pinned that killer living room you designed, that like when they look at it on Pinterest again later, that they know it was your killer living room, and therefore they want to hire you.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get to Pinterest on the back end of this, because she's also the Pinterest queen.
Oh,
and okay, so wait, I'm sorry, I know I asked for 3.
Yeah. So the last one, I would make sure you have to remember, even as a super visual brand, that you really do need to have really great evocative copy on your website, because typically there's going to be 2 people who are decision making in hiring you. There's someone who really likes you aesthetically, and then there's probably going to be someone who's much more business minded that wants to read about your process, that wants to read your story. You need to make sure that you have taken the time to deliver information in the 2 primary ways that people receive and process information. So just as your images are so important, you want to make sure that you're not just an image website, because you want to be able to convert those people who maybe are more likely to convert based off of the things that you wrote, and they don't necessarily even care so much about the design because their partner is more interested in the design. You want to make sure that you can really get them over the finish line because you've spoken to both of them.
Oh my God, that just happened for me with a couple. The husband found me, showed my work to the wife, and she's the one that called.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so that works out. Let's talk about contracts. Let's talk about, you just put up legal contracts on your website, which is so important, because I am always amazed when I speak to designers and they don't have a contract with a client.
Yeah.
Or insurance. People get insurance.
No. Before we really talk about like what it is that the idco contracts do and like who we worked with to make them, I just want to reiterate to everyone who's watching that, like, especially right now with the delays that everyone is experiencing, I feel that it is very likely after 10 months of someone waiting on something, that they could get to the point where they're like, I don't really want this anymore. Like, we've moved on, I'm in another direction. And then you are liable for that. So unless you got a signature on every single thing that you ordered for those people, on every purchase order, technically you are liable. So not only do you need a legally binding contract at the beginning to set boundaries, to set communication expectations, to protect your client as well as yourself and your business and your home and your family, you want to make sure that you are taking yourself like a serious business and getting a signature along every step of the process. You are doing this to make money. You are not doing this as a hobby, and therefore you need to protect yourself and your client. So on to idco contracts. I'm just like, please, right now, when you send that out today, please get a signature.
100.
So we actually worked with Elise. She is the attorney for creatives. I found her from a scary legal thing that happened a few years ago. I was in Paris and I had someone come back and say 2 years later that they weren't using their brand anymore, so they wanted all their money back. Another story. But she was
Okay.
Elise was fantastic, and she drafted up everything that I needed, and she writes in such a familiar, comfortable way that makes even very legally binding contracts feel digestible, and it feels true to your brand, and it feels like you're talking to a real person. This is a very personal relationship you have with your clients, and so I don't want it to go from rigid black and white to warm and fuzzy as you're designing. I want it to be somewhere in between while being legally binding and protecting you as a business. So I knew I wanted to work with her. And when she came to me to create contracts for interior designers, I was like, girl, yes, I've been thinking about this for 4 years now, but didn't want to step on anyone's toes. So I'm so glad it was your idea. So we actually created 4 different products. The first is going to be a service agreement for full service interior design. So that's for your in-person, full service scope clients. Additionally, we have a service agreement for e-design clients. And this is really important because what you're delivering as an interior designer when you're doing distance design or virtual design is very different than the deliverables you are providing for an in-person full service experience. Mm-hmm. So those are the 2 things that you want to kind of differentiate between, and they're not the same contract, and they shouldn't be the same contract unless you are delivering the exact same deliverables for virtual and in-person full service. They need to be 2 separate contracts. So that's the first thing. Additionally, we came up with a great independent contractor agreement. I know so many of you guys are thinking about or already have hired a virtual assistant or a junior designer, and a lot of those people are not full-time, and they can freelance and do other things. So I thought it was really important that we have that protects you, protects your work, makes sure that anything that they produce is still your work with your name on it. Smart. And then lastly, we have a website legality bundle, and that's going to cover everything that you legally have to have on your website. So privacy policy, terms and conditions, this talks about whether you're using Google Analytics to track them, or if you ever run a Facebook ad, it really protects you on all of those fronts. So those are available in the shop. But if you have any questions about that, I do want to just mention that Elise is available to chat with you. She wrote these generally for people in both the United States and in Canada. You'll want to check with an attorney in your state because obviously there are certain things that are legal in one state from another, but it is a fantastic starting point. It'll get you way further than just having an attorney who hasn't worked with interior designers start you off.
True. Yes, cover yourself, people. I cannot stress that enough. It just gives me such anxiety. We have a couple of questions. Melinda Sharp. Several colleagues, my New York accent, are utilizing videos. How does this option assist in showing completed projects?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Melinda. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Instagram announced that they're no longer exclusively a photo sharing app, that they're really leaning into video. We all saw this writing on the wall and they just officially announced it. So I think video is a really important tool if you feel comfortable getting into it. There's a few different video ideas I have for interior designers that can be super easy that you don't need a professional production for. And that would be things like site walkthroughs, swatch decision making, like as you're making a mood board, you can just set your phone up on a tripod above you on a desk as you move stuff around. You can do unboxings as you're in the warehouse. You can give a tour of your receiving warehouse. I think that there's a lot of behind the scenes things that interior designers do that clients don't realize even happens. And using this phone footage of you just like literally doing your job, I think people find so fascinating. What's really cool is you can film those things as a time lapse, which means it gets sped up really fast. So you don't have to worry about like if your hair is perfect and you're not talking to the camera. It's really like, here's a quick walkthrough of what we're doing. And so people can watch it in a really sped up pace, which converts really well. It gets people engaged longer than like a real time video. And it's really easy. Just turn your camera on as you're walking through. I mean, honestly, that's probably footage you're even taking for your client or for your team or for your own reference later. So I think I could really encourage you guys to start utilizing that video content more frequently. Now, the concept of like full project reveals, or if you just did a design and show house, and you want to bring in a professional video production team, I think that's fantastic. Make sure that they're filming it in 2 orientations. You're going to want to make sure that it's both horizontal, because that's what's going to live on your website or on YouTube, and then a vertical orientation, and they can just crop it down differently, but you're going to want to tell them ahead of time that you need both. Is going to be vertical, and that's because that's what Instagram's going to want. That's what Pinterest is going to want. You want to make sure that your video content is taking up as much of the screen as possible. And so if you post a horizontal video on Instagram, if your phone's this big, a horizontal video only takes up about 1/3 of it. So you want to make sure that video is vertical, which takes up 100% of the screen.
Okay. Wow. And how long are these videos? Should they be to like?
Yeah. So if you're doing a full project tour and you did everything top to bottom, it's new build or down to the studs, I would probably see that being a longer format. And so I would try to keep that between 2 and 3 minutes. But if you're talking about just behind the scenes site walkthroughs, I mean, it literally could be 15 to 30 seconds and be a really high converting, highly watched video. Things are just getting shorter, shorter, shorter. People's attention spans are getting shorter, shorter, shorter.
Yes.
So you compete with the puppy videos and the teenagers dancing on TikTok. So keep it short, keep it brief. And you can always just speed it up so it fits within that time frame.
Okay, so I have a question from me. When I see videos on Instagram, I see it starts and then you hit like not whatever the continue button is, and it's just seamless. How do they get that done when I thought it's supposed to be like 60 seconds and sometimes it's longer than a minute? Does it make sense?
So if you're watching something on IGTV, you have up to 10 minutes. So that's that longer format that you can set up. Now, if you're watching a reel, I believe most accounts have 30 seconds. Some like proven video content creators have up to a minute now. Average reel is only 30 seconds. And so I would recommend that people really focus on 30 seconds or less.
Amen, sister, because that's all I can do. Okay, what is the process of copywriting the website? We're going back for a second.
Yeah, that's a great question. So firstly, I want you to write out your process. And I'm not just talking like, oh, we have a discovery meeting and then, we'll come and do a trade day and then we'll get stuff ordered after we present. Like, I want the exact process. This is where you're taking the time to explain to someone why you are worth what you are charging. This is also a time to raise your prices, because you are now explaining to people all of this work that goes into this project. So once you have that super detailed written out process, you're going to keep that on your Dropbox, on your Google Drive, because that's something you're going to need for all different types of stuff in the future. Having your process written out is like the first thing you should do. But once you have that, then you can start taking keywords out of that process, taking little tidbits of like, hey, this is something I do that's above and beyond that someone who's just receiving furniture probably doesn't even know happens. That's the thing that you want to weave into your copy on your website. So the things that you want to consider when you're writing your copy, you want to make sure that you are using keywords frequently. And when I say that, I don't want you to like throw up a bunch of keywords and throw them in a paragraph. I want you to think intentionally about, this is what I'm trying to say here. I want to say, instead of industry, I want to make sure I'm using the word interior design, because
Right.
that's what someone's going to search on Google. So you want to be thoughtful about what words can you swap out based off of how someone would type in a search query to essentially find you. So make sure that you're talking about your location or the locations that you serve. Make sure you're being thoughtful as to saying it's I versus we. Do you have a team? Are you planning on growing a team? Do you want to look like you're a bigger firm, or do you really want it to be like, hey, you get Gail Davis when you hire Gail Davis, and so I want it to always be an I. Those are things that you need to think about when you're telling that story. Lastly, I want you to always write descriptions for your projects. I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're doing their own website, or even when they've hired someone out. They don't take the time to write a description of a project, and you're missing out on great search engine optimization when you skip over that. Not to mention, you are cutting out the whole point of talking to people in the different ways that people consume information. So sure, someone can say, this looks beautiful, and they can flip through. But if you didn't describe what problems you solved for that project, what solutions you crafted, what materials you specifically sourced, what vintage items you curated, if you weren't providing that information, people are not seeing the whole value that working with you really is. You need to provide not only that luxury, as Gail says, concierge level service, you need to explain to people what that really means.
Okay. I have, all right, so I have a question. There's another one, but I'm going to look at Kirsten for videos. What tools do you use for editing and production?
Such a great question, because I have people on my team who do that. I am not a video editing person.
Come on, can't do it all.
But actually, a really great way that you can edit your videos, Canva is free. Canva is something that we've been using to make graphics for people. All of the templates you buy from our shop, exclusive of our web design templates, are built in Canva. It does not cost you anything to use. And actually, their video editing has become a lot better because you can trim down your video. You can pull multiple videos together and output a great reel where you've added text to it. You can edit the lighting in it. And so for someone who's like not looking to be a video editor and is just looking to put together a good behind the scenes, I would do it in Canva.
Okay. I'm going to jump back to you in a second, Dawn. Elizabeth wants to know, do you use Canva to lay out gallery walls?
That is a great question. I think that is definitely a perfect use of Canva. We are coming out with design proposals and design presentations in the next 2 weeks. And I actually will have a tutorial in there on how we put together a full mood board, because Canva has a great tool to remove the background. It literally works better than Photoshop. It's like instant one-click background remover, and you can do the full mood board just by copying and pasting an image over. And so I think it would be a great option to do a gallery wall the same way.
Okay. Dawn Getford, are you saying that we should write copy on the portfolio page?
Yes. I think your portfolio pages should have copy written into it. Not only can you put a paragraph even at the bottom of the page, you don't have to have it right at the top if you want to lead with your images, but having that copy down at the bottom is going to help your website show up in search results.
Someone said Canva, please spell it.
Canva. Canva.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, wait, you're spelling it. So that's interesting. Okay, there's just so many things. I have to say, I love all your templates.
Oh.
Everything you do, it just, what's amazing is it comes across clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's universal, so I can use it, you know, my other designer friends can use it. It's really amazing, and it just works so easy. What made you say clean it up as opposed to have a lot of stuff going on like some people do?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's my incredible design team. Like I'm like the person overseeing all designs, but we've got a great design team, and they are definitely minimal. But what we have found is when things are cleaned up and you're focused on the imagery and you have great brief copy that tells a story, that's the most effective to translating over to a conversion. I want the spaces you design to be front and center 100%. And when you have too many images next to each other, when you have too much going on, you're detracting from the incredible moments you created in each space.
I love that. And the moments are really big because that's what gets you hired.
Yeah.
And that's all, that could always be a missed opportunity. What else should designers be looking out for with not just a website, like the people? Okay, so I know, like for me, I didn't know how to do website design, so I was handing it over to someone, right? And then I was trying to go in and do it, but I was still messing it up. What about the people that don't allow you to do your website that you want to partner with, but you still want a little bit access? Is that like a red flag? Because they could also take down your website without you knowing.
Definitely. Again, read contracts because that's not legal. But I think what you want to think about, idco really has two ways of working with us. And I know that there's other designers out there the same way. You can purchase one of our website templates, which is set up to be completely DIY. You get extensive tutorials plus live tech support from my girl Bridget. Like, it's real people in our office who are helping you walk through anything. You can also hire us to implement that template for you. So that's a great option if you want to know exactly what you're going to get. You're like, I like this website, this is what I want, but I don't want to do it. You can just go ahead and add that to your cart as well. And then lastly, we can of course do a custom option, which unless I'm the worst salesperson in the world, unless you have super like high level technique, like, unless you're looking to add a super robust e-commerce shop, or unless you're looking to add like a built-in podcast with like members subscribe areas, there's really no need for you to do a custom website, unless you're like, I don't want a template. I want something completely commissioned specifically for me. And that's where we've had a lot of fun working with designers to create something that absolutely represents their custom designs, represent their bespoke process. And there's really 3 different tiers of working with someone, where you can be as hands-on as you want or kind of as hands-off.
Hands off, you know me. Completely. I've got a lot of questions here. Okay. If your business has 2 divisions, focuses, should you break the site to 2 subsites?
I think I need a little more information if you're talking about like e-commerce, like a shop plus design services, or if you're talking about, we do residential and commercial, depending on what you're talking about. If it's an e-commerce situation, if you're selling things, that's probably going to be on a separate site, because you'll want to build that on Shopify. Shopify is super limiting when it comes to like layouts for your portfolio pages, for your about pages, those sort of things you're going to want to do on a different platform that has a lot more customization, because as designers, I know you have opinions and you don't want to be stuck to a box. And so that's a situation where you would toggle between 2 different sites. If we're talking about like staging and residential, or commercial and residential, I would go ahead and keep them all on the same site. You're going to drive more traffic, and it would just be a clear header toggle between the 2 different pages.
Okay. Here we go. Creating an online store to sell products, but already have a stable interior design brand. Would you create an entirely new brand for the online store, or more of sub-brand?
Yeah, I think everyone has seen, there's some people, designers, who have really leaned into that concept lately, and they definitely kept it a sub brand, not a completely different brand. So I think it can be successful either way. If you feel like you have a lot of name recognition, I would capitalize on that versus starting over from scratch somewhere else.
Okay, I see it says, Donna Salvo, what can designers expect to pay for basic web design services? That runs the gamut to develop and maintain. That's a
yeah. So, I mean, if we actually did this in the office the other day, if you Google it, a website's going to be somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 if you're doing a pretty basic custom site. If you wanted to go with something that was elevated but more templated, and you were open to having a template versus something totally custom, our websites are $2,500. And so it depends on if you're looking for something completely custom and bespoke commission for you, or if you're willing to work within a template. One thing that is special about idco templates, we only ever sell 10 copies of one design. So keep that in mind when you're looking at templates. Know that unless they say that they're limited release, it means that 300 different designers could have that same website. One thing we've always kept a promise to at idco is that we'll only sell them 10 times. So just food for thought when you're thinking about, how much do you care about if Sally Sue down the street could potentially have the same site as you, or if you need to invest in a custom site.
Okay. And of course, they're asking what platform do you what platform do you use basically?
Yeah, so all of our templates are built on the Wix editor. It is the easiest platform without limitations in the sense of something like Squarespace. Everything is built on a box grid, works great, produces a great boxy square website. I am a creative and I don't want to be kept in a box, which is why I put all of our clients on Wix. If you do a custom site with us, we use Editor X, which is a much more advanced, like coded option. But all of our website templates are built on Wix and they are so easy to use, super easy to log in. It's literally drag and drop however you want. You click the text to edit it. There's no code involved.
Perfect. It says, what if we purchase a template from another source and would like to work with you on it?
That's a great question. And I'm so sorry, we are not a fit. If you purchase a template from somebody else, then you're going to want to reach out to them because you're going to get a better product. We didn't build that template. We don't know how it was built on the back end. We didn't design it. So I really think that working with whoever you purchase the template from is going to be best for you.
Okay, I am updating my ancient website, which stopped working and had become ineffective. Okay, Judy. Okay, yeah. It says, anonymous, what about blogging? I have seen where designers have a completely different website for their blog. I have also seen other who have their blog as one of the items on their menu. Which is better and what's the rationale behind choosing one or the other?
Yeah. The rationale behind it probably comes back to, did that person start as a blogger and then start offering design services? If that's the case, it's probably separate because they had already accumulated, hundreds of posts built on WordPress, most likely. And then their design service website was built on another easier to use platform. So that's probably the instance. What I would recommend is if you were just starting or if you haven't been blogging a ton, I would put them on the same platform. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to be easier to use. Most importantly, having all of those different blog posts cataloged on your website means that there's that many more pages for Google to crawl and look through to direct traffic to your website. So the more pages you can have on your website specific to your services, specific to your blog posts, like Gail to her podcast, those are things that Google can search to find you. And if you kept that separate, you'd be driving traffic to the wrong website.
Oh, we don't want that. Judy said, may I still list projects not necessarily from the dark ages, but showing current and classic style of today? Also, press from years ago when the magazines were alive and well. I hear you, Judy.
I think that there are totally ways to do that. We'll start with press because it's a little more direct. I think you can just list press, list what publication it was in. You don't have to put a year. You can just have a neat, tidy list that shows all of those. If it's a more recent one and it's like digital and you want to hyperlink it, you can definitely add that and make it a button that clicks over. But there's no reason that you should skip over ancient press. Like, it was still press, so utilize it. As far as projects that are older, I would really encourage you to focus on just showing projects that you would want someone to come to you today and say, I want that room. You want to be putting out only work that you are looking to book more work of. So if there's a project that you have in your portfolio that you're like, this just is not my vibe, this is not my style, I didn't have joy working with this, even if it was the loveliest of clients, if that's not the type of work you want to be doing again in the future, don't include it in your portfolio. There's no need to.
No, that makes sense. And it says, do you think that Wix performs as well as WordPress with Google? I can't see. Or are there ways to make it as good as for Google?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, if you're doing like blog posts, WordPress is definitely like the traditional blogging platform. But if you're talking about just like a portfolio site with your services and everything, Wix performs just as well as WordPress does. I mean, it actually has a much easier SEO tool that'll walk you through exactly what words to add to each page. And you just click a button to add them. It's so simple.
Any more questions on websites, people? Come on through. Because then I want to talk about Pinterest. You're like the guru of Pinterest, and you said that's a search engine and that you get a lot of business and it drives a lot of business to your website. How is that possible? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
So you have to think that Pinterest is a Google. I mean, if you're looking for visual inspiration, chances are if you're a Pinterest user, you will search on Pinterest before you search on Google. So you need to make sure as an interior designer that your images are available and searchable on Pinterest. Our traffic, our website traffic is 95% from Pinterest. Month after month, everything's on Pinterest, which kind of drives me crazy because we spend time and energy creating Instagram content, and Instagram is like this much of our website traffic. So I want you guys to be focusing on it. It is the quickest, easiest, and honestly, most joyful platform, I feel, as an interior designer, because nobody's leaving comments, nobody's worried about how many likes it got. It's just like, I created this art, I'm putting this art in the world. If you like it, you'll save it to your pin board. So you just need to make sure, and we talked about this at the beginning of this webinar, that all of your images on your website have a description built into them. It's called an alt tag, and that's where you're going to describe what is in the image, who designed this image, what location you're in, so that all of those things are searchable on Pinterest. So when someone searches, for example, white subway tile kitchen, and I'm just giving bare bones basic, that your image potentially can come up in that search. Otherwise, if you left it as just image 034, it's going to be a lot harder for Pinterest to see that and find it to put it in those search results.
Can we, this is off topic, but can we talk about etiquette, please, when it comes to websites? So websites, Pinterest, everything, or just sliding into people's DMs or leaving comments. So my thing is, when I do a show house, I'm listing who everybody is. So this way you just click, you can find out where wallpaper, whatever. What makes me crazy is when I have a client hire me, I go and do the work. I'm not going to list where I got the stuff from, because the client paid for that. And it's really off-putting to see people demand where, and then get rude about it when I don't. What's your thought on that? And also with, I don't know, the way they compliment, or another designer will call out, if you don't say where it is, another designer will call out and let that person know where you got it from.
Yeah. So I'll answer the first question first. I think the best way and most gracious practice is have a note in your phone that has a response that says something like, that's proprietary information for the clients who commissioned me for this project, but I'm happy to schedule a consult call with you to give you these sources. So essentially you're telling them, you can pay me for an hour and I'll tell you where that wallpaper is from, but it's not free to give out. It also can just be literally as simple as short as, thank you so much, I'm so glad you love it. That was to the trade only for my clients. And so it's just like simple, it's to the trade only, like you can't even buy it, so don't even worry about it. Like move along. Yeah. So you just have it, you can just say thank you, leave it at that. And I think when people get that reminder that like, hey, you're not a home blogger, like you're an interior designer, and sometimes people are just scrolling quickly and they're like, I love that, where do you get that little reminder of like, hey, oh yeah, like this is your service, and that's all that they need, and they're like, oh yeah, duh, like sorry about that, moving on. As far as people who push back on that, I think you could also just remind them, and I always try to come from a place of grace, that,
and you always come from a place of grace.
Saying something along the lines of like, I'm so glad you love it. I totally understand you're desperate to get the source. Because my clients paid me for this, I legally cannot provide you that information.
I like that. Ooh, here we go. Greg wants to know, how do you recommend making Pinterest interesting so it's not just categorized by room, or does that matter?
That's a great question. So I think from searchability, categorizing by room is awesome. I don't think you need to think of your Pinterest as necessarily being categorized in a super interesting way. Your focus with Pinterest should be like, how searchable is this? So I would not do like cutesy names on Pinterest boards. Like don't make it like sing-songy. You want it to be like kitchen inspo, kitchen inspiration, things that people are typing in as a search query. You always have to be thinking about, if I was this person trying to find this, like, what is it that I would have typed in to find it? Back in the day, like I wasn't one of like the beta users on Pinterest. Like I have been Pinterest ride or die as long as it existed. And I would like make these real cutesy names and be like, I'm so clever on my Pinterest boards. And then over the years, I've realized the more simple, straightforward they are, really the more searchable they are. And you're going to see your following and your reach get a lot broader numbers than if you're being super specific. I think you also should always have a portfolio board set up. So anything you've ever produced, it lives on one place so that people can quickly get to your work exclusively. But if you have a kitchen board, pin your own kitchen images and then pin other kitchen images all in the same place.
Okay, here we go. Melinda Sharp, what are the rules regarding listing company names of specific vendors on Pinterest?
I don't think there's rules. I would say if you paid for the product or your client paid for the product, there's absolutely zero reason you should list that on Pinterest.
Okay. How do you I have that. How do you recommend? What platform do you put websites on? Oh, we did that. Wix. What else can I use Keynote for mood boards. I don't know what that is. Design. What is Keynote?
Keynote is just like your PowerPoint on your Mac. It's like their version of PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. I was like,
what's the rest of the question?
It's not a question. She's just stating it also has a background Insta Alpha remover for images, and images can be layered. Okay, that's cool.
So I have quite a few designer clients who do use Keynote for their presentations. I've found that background remover is not quite as robust. And I mean, it certainly is totally comparable to Canva. If that's what you're comfortable in, that's great. We've just built everything in Canva because not everybody's a Keynote user if you don't have a Mac.
Yeah, and I don't have a PC, so it's what I'm watching you on now. Do you have anything else that you want to share that people should really understand, or we could talk more about idco, because I just am all things idco. Like your company is absolutely amazing. Your team is flawless, and but it's a reflection of you. You know, and it's an extension of you. So when I speak with anyone there, like they're always just so amazing, so accommodating. They know I have crazy questions and there's no judgment, which is good because a sister can ask some dumb questions sometimes.
I have no idea how I get to work with the people I work with. Like I have the most incredible team, but aside from idco, thank you for all of those super, super kind things you say. I'm so proud of the team we've built and they amaze me every day. I will say to everybody, when you're thinking about your website, I want you to think about it one step beyond that. Because if you've put all this time and energy into your website and expense, and like, I don't take that lightly. I want to make sure that experience from the web, your clients are experiencing throughout their entire process with you. So I want you to be thinking about what client process documents you're presenting to your clients, if you even have any, and how do those match your website? That's how you strengthen your brand. And so we have templates for things like your investment guide. After someone's seen your website, they've sent an inquiry, there is a document you should be sending out that talks about your pricing, that describes your billing structure, that sets communication boundaries, that tells them what the next steps are, explains what a receiving warehouse is, explains how you charge for a receiving warehouse. That is all stuff that you can send in one document that you don't even have to have a conversation about. You can just send that off. It will save you hours and hours and hours a week. Secondly, they should be receiving a welcome guide. So after you've had your initial 20-minute phone conversation, you've also had your paid in-person consultation. Now they're ready to hire you. Once they've signed a contract, there should be another touch point that has your beautiful branding on it, that matches your website, that matches that investment guide. And that should be telling someone, again, a lot of redundant information because people need to hear it over and over and over again. But how you're going to work together, what the process looks like. Again, tell them that you don't order a single thing until all furnishings have been paid in full. You need to explain, this is a great place to talk about how we're experiencing, 6, 8, 10 month delays on things. This is just options to provide further education, because the more you can educate a client who likely hasn't worked with an interior designer or certainly hasn't worked with you before, you need to explain what this process looks like. You cannot expect them to know, and it's a huge investment, so you can't expect them to just believe you. So educate them as much as you can. The third document we like to have is a goodbye packet. I am guilty of this. I'm sure everybody is guilty of this. By the time you're at the end of a project, you're really ready to be over it. Like, you're ready to move on. That is your prime opportunity to get personal referrals though. And so you want to make sure you wrap up this project with a pretty bow. A goodbye packet is going to have a thank you note, how to work together in the future. Because at this point, Sally Sue's like, hey, let's go do my basement now. And you're like, girl, that was not in our contract. Like, I've got people lined up. It explains that you're super happy to work with them. You'll fit them into your schedule. They'll get a whole new contract and scope of work for this new project. You set those parameters, and you outlined your boundaries. Additionally, it has hyperlinks to their product warranties that are applicable. It has a care guide, tells them how to clean their custom drapery, how to spot treat a rug, how to treat natural wood, how to care for their natural stone. We have all of that written out for you, but it's really a nice way to finish off a project and make someone feel like, hey, like, I guess we're done now. Like, is our process over?
Right,
It's a
right.
really important touch point to deliver along with your client gift at the end.
Love, love, love that. A couple other questions popped up in here. How do you control the companies you work with that take your photos for their use?
That is a great, great question. And honestly, this goes back to the photographers. This is a really tricky thing because technically it's not even your photo, it's the photographer's photo. So working with the same photographer over and over again, once you find someone you really love, I really recommend using them repeatedly when you can, because you can start to ask these questions up front. And you can explain, hey, I'm working with XYZ company. They're going to want to showcase this. Can you give me a rate of what it will to license that one photo? And so what I recommend doing is, after you've gotten that rate, usually it's going to be like $50 a photo, depending on, the project. It also depends on how many photos they're going to try to license. When you first get those images, I would get ahead of it, send it out to those vendors that you're working with and say, hey, I just shot this project with X, Y, and Z photographer. They thought you might be interested in these images. I've rounded up the ones that feature your product. You can license those at $50 a piece. I've CC'd the photographer here. And then that way the photographer has a direct contact when they start using their image for free. And it just kind of covers your butt, because you don't want to get billed from your photographer being like, why are you handing out my photography for free? Because like, that is their livelihood and that's their work.
True. I just had that situation in the room that I just shot on Monday. And I put a snippet up, as you saw on Instagram, and one of the vendors was like, great, please send me the pictures when you're done. And I'm like,
I will say, talk to your photographer. We always work with photographers who are comfortable with social media regrams of their photos, as long as they're credited in the caption. And so you as the designer are responsible for making sure if something gets tagged with you as the designer, make sure that they also have added the photographer. That's something you can ask your photographer and say, just the reality of it is this is going to be programmed. I want to make sure you're okay with this. Obviously, any print, any like website usage, any sort of marketing usage, like they'll have to license those photos. But typically it's just kind of, social's gotten to be such a beast that it's like, this is not something we'll be able to manage. So I just want to make sure you're clear with that moving forward, but I will fight for you and protect you when it comes to like ad campaigns, email marketing, anything else that includes your image.
True. Who is this? If you are just starting out and don't have a vast portfolio, how should you populate your website?
I think that's such a good question. We actually just booked a custom client and they're just starting out. And I have already been dreaming up the coolest text-only website. I think that you can create a really beautiful brand identity that evokes your style and the type of clients you want to book. Rely really heavily on your copywriters to tell the story of your brand, tell the story of the spaces you create, and use a lot of color, texture, pattern that you would in a space that complements your designs. And you could just do a site completely without images until you have a killer interior design profile. You just need one project to add images to your website. You just need one project. So I think that you could really work with someone, and this would take investing in a custom design to get a type heavy website where you can outline your process, talk about your services, talk about the spaces you want to create, and the right client will see that and look at it as a personal connection. Like, they don't even need to see the work because they're like, I'm just worried about you creating space for me. So I don't even need to see what you've done for other people.
That's beautiful. Janine, what is the spelling of the name of Anastasia's company? Go ahead, my love.
Great question. So you can find all of our products at idco.studio. So that's www.idco.studio. And then you can also find me at the Identity Collective. So I have 2 Instagram accounts. Identity Collective is our lifestyle blog for interior designers, and that's THEIDENTITE.co. So you can find us there. If you're looking to work together, idco Studio is your spot.
Okay, and we have a couple more questions, so I'm gonna try to get to them. What would be your recommendation for highly customizable products? How to structure the website for things that are so bespoke? Is this a storytelling approach or a dump of all you can do?
I think it's a storytelling approach.
But isn't it always on the website, a storytelling approach? I don't think it would be a dump.
I don't think it would be a dump, but I think that if you really look at like the highest level of design, if you look at, historically speaking, mid-century design, if you look at Italian design, it's going to be one image with a beautiful, almost like a footnote caption talking about it. And so if you're really talking about one of a kind bespoke pieces, I think you can take a very editorial approach with very heavily weighted negative space, still tell the story in a single image and not dump everything into it.
Okay. And then for my girl, Pete, you are amazing, learn so much. She said, what are good client gifts to give?
Great question. I chat about this a lot with our clients as we kind of brainstorm what kind of packaging we could do for them, et cetera. One thing I really love is when you guys make it personal. And so throughout the process, you've learned a lot about how they live. You can ask specific questions in your initial design homework, like where did they honeymoon? What's their favorite Sunday night meal? That sort of thing. So I think it could be either if they like to go out a lot, you could definitely do restaurant gift certificates. If they honeymooned in Cape Town, you could do some beautiful coffee table books to add to the designs that you already created about Cape Town. Look for those little pieces of personality that you can deliver to them at the end and say, I heard you, I connected with you. These are things I thought you would really like that can contribute to the overall design at the end.
Whew. Well, this has been real. And this has been a lot. One more time, let the people know where they can find you before we close. You
can find us at idco.studio, and that's on Instagram and on the web, as well as the Identity Collective, which is THEIDENTITE Collective. And I cannot wait to connect with you guys over there. Feel free to send us a DM anytime. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
Perfect. And Leanne, this will be on YouTube. This is being recorded as we currently speak. So thank you, everyone. Seriously, go to her website, reach out to her. She's amazing. I cannot say enough great things about her. I love her. I really don't want to share her, but I will because she's just fabulous. And that's it.
Well,
thank you
so much for having me. It's always so great to chat with you, and you're just such a dear, dear, dear friend.
Love you back, my girl. All right, everyone, have a great one. Enjoy your Thursday. Stay cool.